G'day, mate. Hello there. So, guys, there is the update and live situation on the US Congress elections, or the Senate and House of Representatives combined. You can see there that's the House of
situation
Representatives.
on the US
We're looking at
elections,
93% of the votes already counted, and it would appear from that graph, that the Democrats will, in fact, wrestle power away from the Republicans in the House of Representatives, as was pretty much forecast. The Senate, pretty much the same in the fact that it's gone as forecast, but this one will be retained by the Republican parties. Only 5 seats remain, and that's an insurmountable lead. So the Republicans will retain control of the Senate, but with 31 seats remaining to be counted in the House, that there's a 22-seat lead to the Democrats. I would think that's just about insurmountable as well. Although I'm assuming that this Google depiction of the results is accurate and indeed up to date. What's that mean, I wonder? Well, speculation yesterday from myself was that if the Democrats wrestled power away from the Republicans in the House of Representatives, then I thought we'd be in a situation where the market might just get a little bit scared, and that may result in dollar weakness. I think we're probably seeing that at the moment, but we haven't seen what London thinks of it yet. So I'll reserve my judgment on that just for a little bit. But I still think that's probably the most logical outcome here. And I'm looking at Aussie dollar at the moment on the daily chart. It's far from decisive, but then the results have been posted live, or the counting's been posted live all day, and that's gone up and down with the varying leads as it's panned out. And there had been changes. I've checked in a couple of times today, so not 100% certain as to what's going to happen, but the market thus far thinks pretty much as we forecast may be the case, and the dollar is weakening pretty much across the board, certainly in the majors, pound, euro, and Aussie. I wonder where that leaves us in terms of tradability. Well, if we're not already in these moves, I think it's going to be a little bit tough, to be fair. The daily charts that I'm looking at are suggesting that we are through all resistance at this point, and headed towards the next lot, which for the pound appears to be up here somewhere around about 132, 40, 50, something like that. The euro, I suppose it's still got a little bit of resistance here in this former support area, but looks very, very bullish. Might have been a nice entry here yesterday, but gee, it was tough to take it. Really tough to take it, given that we were stuck in amongst these pivots. And I thought, yeah, looks good, but, and that's exactly what I did. I stayed out. Looks like that may have been one that got away, but we're not there yet. We'll see exactly what happens. What I would say is if there is any retracement back to significant levels, I might be looking for entries on the back of what my thought process is. But at the moment, very, very difficult, as I say, to get into this market. Yeah, that's the Aussie on the daily chart. Not as decisive as the other pair at the moment. In fact, this candle is struggling, isn't it, to get through this resistance trend line here. And maybe there is a retracement on the way here. Let's see. but untradeable. Those three crosses for me, completely untradeable at the moment until there is pullback of some kind. I'm simply not going to press the go button because I think that the US dollar will weaken on the back of this result. But that to me is probably something that is for someone else. I just don't tend to do that. I'd rather have something to back that up in terms of a technical reason to actually go into the market. So nothing there on the majors for me. What else have we got? Yen. Yen's interesting, and I've got an opinion here as well. Okay, Ash is just letting me know he's in, and we'll cross to him in just a tick. I'll just go through this major point that I'm about to make. And the yen's been as weak as fizzy drink over the last few days, if not even a little bit longer than that, maybe a week or so, since it came off the bottom here on the Aussie. The euro, very similar, and the pound, very, very similar. So with those three majors absolutely smashing the yen currently, and for the last week or so, it's very, very difficult to think yen's strength. But again, if I go back to this election result, I think that does create uncertainty as to what's going to happen next in terms of whether Trump will be impeached, whether he'll, all of his bills will be repealed or won't go through the processes that we were expecting them to. That creates a little bit of uncertainty for me. And I think on the back of that, my preference or my bias is going to be to find reversals on the yen sometime soon. As we reach these resistance levels, and pound yen certainly at that, euro yen's just about to hit resistance, and Aussie yen on the daily chart has burst through its most immediate resistance, but there's a little bit coming up as well. So I think I'm inclined to look for reversals at these levels on Aussie yen, euro yen, and pound yen, maybe even throw dollar yen in there as well. That already looks to be reversing, though. Not at a great level, I've got to say. I think it's actually come through the resistance level, and maybe this looks like a retest. So dollar yen, not so much, but pound, euro, and Aussie, I think I've got a definite taste for those in my appraisal today. So steering clear of the majors versus the dollar at this point, unless there's a decent retracement. But I am keen on reversals on the yen pairs. We'll see how that pans out a little bit later. Look, I think the financial markets in general will be interesting over the next few hours. Wonder what the FTSE is going to look like. Let's check in with Ash and see if we can get some insight from the master. How you doing, Ash?
Yes, mate, I'm doing very well. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay, but I'm doing really well. Really interesting. Everything that you were just saying there about the markets and everything that you were saying about the elections. I've tried to stay on top of it as much as possible, but it's not been that easy. But let me show you what's going on over here. I have actually got a trade in the FTSE. Now, we did discuss this yesterday. Let me just bring it up. Where are we at? Now, I've tightened things up, but the FTSE's holding up okay. So what I've done is I've entered down here. We did discuss this yesterday. Head and shoulders pattern started to form on this 4 hour. And I'm going to show you the reason that I've gone long here rather than looking for the shorts. Let me get rid of that. Now, there's every chance this could go short, because actually the point that we're currently at is this area here, which is, that's a potential resistance line. There's another area. No screen. Okay, sorry, that's me. I know why that is. That's because I haven't done this. How's that? So hopefully that should be better. And give it a couple. I know there's a little delay, and I'm with the delay. There you go. Hopefully, oh, you got it. Oh, great. Okay. So this is what we got so far. We got this head and shoulders pattern that formed yesterday, and I managed to take a little trade to the downside here. I got down to 70.14 in the end, but I've now taken a trade to the upside, and I'll show you the reason for that in a moment. Because obviously this pattern just looks like it's a downward trend, and it doesn't look like it's going to hold up. But let me just show you what's going on with this this head and shoulders pattern, because it's quite an interesting looking pattern, the head and shoulders pattern, and probably not what it seems. It looks at this stage, and this could be, you know, this could end up working out to be the case. This could end up being the neckline, which means that we're at a point of resistance. We also have a point of resistance right here too, right along there. So there are two reasons to suggest that that, you know, we are actually at the point of resistance on the head and shoulders pattern anyway. So it's going to struggle to get through that point. My thinking is, if we can get through that point, then I've got a really nice run to the upside, and you can see that the trade is going to be multiple times to one. So for that reason and that reason alone, I think this is well worth it, looking for the long rather than the short. But we'll just look at a couple more things about this head and shoulders pattern. When I draw the head and shoulders pattern, I actually see a slanted shoulder, which is more like that. So when I bring that into case, then it means that we're kind of back inside the pattern. So I could be wrong. You know, I could be completely wrong about this. It might be that that is a straight right shoulder and a straight left shoulder, and this is the neckline. Definitely an important area of support here, which could potentially become resistance. But as I say, I think that the price here is tight enough for me to not be too concerned. And I've moved my stops right at the lows. And the reason that I've done that is that when I look at this hourly chart, actually what I've got is a little bit of support along here. So, you know, price is right on top of that support. So if it comes down and closes below, I will take the trade off anyway. If it comes down and closes below and keeps going, then and I don't get the chance, I've got a protective stop in place. So I'm looking for this this to go higher, but there's every chance that could fail. Now, when this started to move to the upside, this really was the point of entry right along there. You know, as soon as we started to break through, there's a little point of entry along here that we could take. I was actually using this on a very short, on a much shorter term time frame. So I was looking at this hammer down here, and I was going on to the 15-minute chart. And when you look at a 15-minute chart, we actually got these highs going on here. And then when we created this area, that's what promoted the trade for me to get in long. So that's why I got in long at that particular point. And the reason I'm looking for long and not short is because of the daily chart. So remember, you know, this is because the longer the stronger. So when I look at this daily chart, what I see here is a higher high, and I'm looking for this to be a higher low. And it's going to be great to get your no problem. Great to get your opinion on it later, mate. But we'll do it in a second. So I'm looking for that to be the higher low. Now the question really, when we look at this area, is this the point of swing? You know, because if this is the point of swing, then the gap down doesn't concern me, because the close yesterday didn't break through. And that's the reason that I still think that this trend is intact. So that's the way I'm judging it. I'm looking for the longer term trend to be intact, and I'm looking for shorter term time frames to give me that opportunity. So that's the thinking behind this. Now, there could be a further dip. Now, I did say yesterday that the dip actually could come right into this shoulder here, and I agree with you about the markets and the potential for the impeachment, or the potential for laws to get become very, very difficult to get through. Does that affect the stock market? Well, truth is it could. I think for me, my speculation is that at this stage I've got a good price. Let's see. Let's see if it does, because if it does and we start to come down, very, very low risk. I've got this on very, very low risk. So if it doesn't and it starts to move forward, then I'm going to take a nice bit of profit. I think it's going to work out around about 1.5 to 2. Well, around about what would it end up being? Probably 5, 6, a 6% trade if the risk is there. So that's my thinking, mate. That's what I'm looking at. Interested to get your view on it because, as I say, there's lots of different technical patterns going on here, and this could quite easily break down off a Head and Shoulders, and maybe we do get a little bit lower. Actually, when you do a measured move on the structure of the Head and Shoulders, it does lead us down here, which is another area that I could potentially start looking for longs at if the market so shows itself to be the case. But right now, I am long FTSE. I'm going to wait for the first 15 minutes to see what the sentiment is, and we'll soon find out in the next 15 minutes. We're going to find out what the market traders actually think about this, and if the market traders just don't particularly like it, then we're going to see me taken out and then potentially enter at a slightly lower price. Let me just quickly get my door, because that's my iron for later on. I will hand it back to you, mate, and we'll get your views on it.
Okay, everyone needs an iron for later on, especially if you're trading currencies or anything else. It is an absolute essential part of your kit. I think that's marvelous. Okay, I'm going to have a look at one thing, and actually, before when Ash comes back, from the iron, I'll say something about his trade as well. One thing I wanted to show you was Aussie Kiwi, because it's the only Kiwi cross, I'll get that out, cross that I do trade. And you can see we've gone over a waterfall here, kind of overnight for most people, and certainly as far as the market's concerned. Where I live in Australia, of course, it's not nighttime, it's daytime. But the big thing is the Kiwi had a massive number today, absolutely massive. Why can't I find that? There we are. But let's update the election while we're there. It is now 215 to 192 in the House. That's 93.5% the vote counted. There's 28 seats left, and to win or retain power in the House of Representatives, the Republican Party would need a miracle from here, because they're 23 behind. Okay, so I think we can judge that that's done and dusted. Certainly the Senate's done and dusted with 5 seats left. The Democrats can't win that one, so it's going to be a mixed bag. But the most important one, the House of Representatives, is headed to the blue wave, is what they were talking about all week. Okay, so let's go back to this this news that I was going to show you, which was absolutely massive for the Kiwi, and it happened at if I can find the dash thing, it's disappeared. There we go. Happened at 10:45 London time last evening, and look at these numbers. The employment change quarter on quarter, 1.1% after a forecast of 0.5%. But the big number is this unemployment rate, which dropped to 3.9%. That's world class at the moment, and much better. If we have a look at that in a histogram, what we see is this number here, the 3.9. We haven't even been near that for years, absolutely years. And historically, there aren't that, or there's a little period in here between 2005 and global financial crisis. You can see that every chart you look at in terms of financial charts, you can see where the global financial crisis hit. And that was certainly evident in the Kiwi or the New Zealand, if you like, employment rates. So unemployment at 3.9%, they must be absolutely cock-a-hoop over there in Kiwi land at the moment. So that's the point I was trying to make there is I'm interested in trading Aussie Kiwi. I haven't traded it before, but I'm very interested in trading this cross because it is very much a ranging pair. And if I can find a range bottom, I'd start to get happy here. Although it's very difficult to think that the Kiwi won't just continue to power on, given that number. There's probably something in here. So what I'm really looking for is something to trade to a support level after I get some sort of retracement, which appears to be on the cards at the moment. Yeah, it's not good, is it? I can't see anything there that really turns me on, to be fair. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for maybe a pullback off this low and then a range bottom of some kind. Maybe there. Looks interesting, but it's tough to see the Kiwi going backwards here, given those numbers. Massive, massive number for the Kiwi. Okay, that doesn't help the trade today, does it? Let's get back to these yen pairs that I was talking about and how I'm going to look to trade them. Aussie yen we'll start with. On the daily chart, you can see there is a potential pullback on at the moment. Are we at that resistance level is the big question. Look, I'd be prepared to say we are. Kind of messy through here. There's a bit of a former support level through there. I'm not going to go back that far, but I think the most recent level here is enough to convince me that we do have resistance. And on the back of that, the overbought nature of this cross tends me to think there's a good case for retracement here anyway. Trading it is the question. And two options I think here that I've got. One is the existing trend line, and one is that line there. Throw in the horizontal level, and I think I favour this one. And what I'd like to see is I'd like to see price poke its head through here, maybe hit the this former monthly pivot, or even these spikes would do. Consolidate there for a little bit, then poke back underneath that line, retest the confluence area from below, and I think that's an awesome opportunity to trade this back to the weekly pivot. I don't think I want any more out of it than that because I don't know yet if this is sustainable in terms of a yen strengthening. It's just something I've got in my mind that follows on, I guess, from that US election result, which is very, very clear now that the Senate has been won by the Republicans and the House of Representatives by the Democrats. That's if I can trust that Google chart that I was looking at. So that's the plan on Aussie yen. That's the daily chart, of course. So we're a couple of days away from that happening. On the smaller time frames, this is the 4 hour, we're still at resistance, and there's a nice little reversal bar sitting there already. I'd like to see that backed up by something if I am to trade this off that signal. So I'd like probably to see price get down to here somewhere, then retrace and give me a left shoulder would be fine. But really what I'm looking for here is a lower high. If I was to see that on the 4 hour chart, I'd be interested in trading it short. That, again, is going to be a fair way from now. So let's see if we can dig down even a little bit deeper and see if there's something on offer on the 30-minute chart. There's a nice little trend line coming up through here, and take your pick as to where it begins. It's in there somewhere. I'll leave it there for now because no matter where I start this from, it's going to end up pretty much in the same place. Whether I'm willing to trade this short now is probably debatable, but you can see that we've got nice little. It's toppy anyway. We might even call that a head. We might call that a left shoulder. So what I'd like to see is price get back up to this area, and then give me something of a reversal and that lower high that we seek all the time. So that's pretty much where I'm at in Aussie yen terms. They're all very, very similar scenarios, but the 30-minute chart naturally will be the first opportunity. And if we do get that as perhaps a right shoulder, but as I say, definitely a lower high, I think that's probably the time that I'll be looking to trade that short target area. Yeah, look, on a 30-minute chart, that's going to be restrictive, but there's probably a case for certainly taking profit before we hit this support level, which is a confluence of daily pivot and the trend line that I've just put on the chart. But bigger picture thing probably doesn't get me too excited. Weekly pivot's obvious, but I think it's probably a little bit ambitious also because we've got to trade through that level. So I think probably that level there would do me. I'd be looking to get out there around about the 81.20 mark, something of that nature. So that's Aussie yen. Let me take a look at Euro yen. And all of these are going to be similar, of course. Euro yen, I mentioned this yesterday, that it was tempting to look for a short even yesterday, but I saw this level here, 130.13, where it coincides in confluence with the top of this ascending channel. I wonder what that looks like as a Fibbo. Not that I'm a great Fibbo fan, but yeah, it's kind of in betweenies, isn't it? Kind of in betweenies. It just looked like it might be a nice Fibbo level. But that's where I see this being a turnaround point. Maybe it's already looking that way, and certainly that is the case. It's looking that way. But I don't know that I'd be willing to get into the market here. I don't think that level is as strong as this one here. And indeed, it's DR1. I know that it is a resistance area, but I think there's a stronger level just above, and I think the bulls can probably push price to there before I'll look for a reversal. So, no real want from me to get into the market short on Euro yen just yet. Pound yen's different, however. We have hesitated at this pink line. This pink line is, of course, the top of the descending channel here. It's in confluence with, well, it's almost in confluence with, it's not really, this 149 level that you see through here, this black line. I think it also represents a lower high. So if this level's taken out, I'm probably going to change my mind. But where we stand now, I think this is probably a reasonable place to look for a reversal in the current momentum. So let's dig down and see if that's going to be tradable. The daily chart is suggesting that we are at that resistance level. We've come off it. I won't be trading that as an isolated candle, that's for sure. But what I would like to see is price hit the daily pivot on a smaller time frame. Let's have a look for that, see if it's possible. Of course, it's possible. Everything's possible. So I'll be looking for that to happen. But on the 4-hour chart, I really don't have a reversal bar. Yeah, I've got a rejection bar, but I don't have something that's engulfing this candle, so it's not filling me with joy here at the moment. That said, a daily pivot test and a bounce back to retest the bottom of this descending channel would probably give me I wouldn't say a gilt-edged reason to enter, but it would get me interested. I'll put it that way. We'll see how that pans out. But it's very, very similar to what I've been talking about on Aussie yen as well. Let me see if the 30-minute chart is any better. And really the answer to that is no. I don't really have a double top here. I don't have a bearish engulfing bar. I don't have an inverted hammer. I don't have a head and shoulders. Maybe I'm about to build one, but at this point I don't have one. So I guess on the same basis, if we do get this lower high, I would look at that and probably see a shoulder on the 30-minute chart, but it's not as good a signal as are the others. So I think Aussie yen's my favorite at this point, and that probably covers the yen pairs for now. Nice reversal bar there, and if we can back that up with a lower high, then yep, Aussie yen's the one for me. That's a 4-hour chart. And as we get very, very close to the open, I'm not looking to trade anything. I'm not a massive fan of trading the first candle of London session or any session. But this one looks good to me in terms of let's rally to here and then look for that lower high and look for a short. So, mate, that's my thought process on the yen pairs. Very, very similar in terms of what I'm looking for. And I think this one's probably the best scenario that I can find at the moment on Aussie yen. I can see Ash is typing to me. I'm not sure what he's about to tell me, but I'll wait until I get that before I sign off and pass back to him. Okay, yep, that's what I was saying, mate. So if you want to take over, she's all yours.
Yeah, just Just talking about the open. If we want to watch. Yeah, should we watch it? Okay, so let's have a look. We are a few seconds away. Let's just bring up the FTSE. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we'll watch this on a 5-minute chart and just see what the fluctuations are here. In fact, let me just put this in place. Put this here. It's starting to look pretty good for my trade here. It's got to get through this level here. So that's the first thing. I mean, it looks kind of nice as it goes up, but there's nothing conclusive really. You know, if we break through this level, then I'm going to feel a lot happier about this. Obviously, we can see the price action here. There are orders in the market here which are pushing this down. So the bulls really need to take this over, I think, to take this on for us to have a profitable day. And if we do get that close and we can start to push up, the idea will be to keep it in the market and see how far it will go. You know, I'm still looking to target this area up here. You know, I'm still looking for that area to be tested. Now, the other aspect of this, when we look at this again, is the inverted head and shoulders here. So I'm looking to see whether the wider pattern will play out, and if we get that inverted head and shoulders. Now, the good thing about this is that this is the bottom end of the right shoulder. So if the longer term pattern is to play out here, we're right on the bottom end of that right shoulder, and that right shoulder, sorry, the left shoulder has taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe 9 bars to form. We're currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars in here. So 3 more bars will give us the completion of the right shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe we shouldn't count today. So we're looking at 4 including today. 4 more bars, and that could potentially just lead us up to the top end of the pattern. And what I'm looking for is, if this is the low end of that shoulder there, then we're probably looking at the neckline being somewhere around about there, and that's going to get me pretty close. You know, if it doesn't, if this pattern starts to move up, if the price action starts to move up, and we get to the top end of the pattern in, I don't know, let's say 7 days instead of the 9, then I may well start to move those stops fairly tight, just in case it is going to come all the way back down again before moving into that area. But I'd really like this to play out this way. I think this particular pattern makes much more sense to me than the 4-hour pattern. You know, when I'm looking at this as a left shoulder, head, right shoulder, it seems a little bit clearer. Undoubtedly, that there's a level of resistance here, and that's of no surprise whatsoever, because this market is in a downtrend. And it's not that I won't be looking for the shorts. I absolutely will be looking for the shorts, but I'm not looking for the shorts in this particular area. I'm going to be looking at the shorts. You know, if we can get up here, then I'll look to sell this market off again. So right now, it's still a buyer's opportunity rather than the sellers. And you know, one of the other reasons that I say that is that we have to kind of look at the market and establish whether, firstly, whether we're trending in a specific direction, which obviously we are trending to the downside. This daily pattern is starting to suggest we may well have seen this higher high. I'm a little bit suspicious about these bars. You know, these highs aren't very confident. So there's every chance that this could collapse here, and we haven't really seen a high that we can trust. But I'm looking to see whether we do actually have a higher high here, and whether this can be a higher low from this lower point here. So, you know, fairly exciting potential trend here that could start to pick up, and much more lucrative. So even though the pattern is imperfect and the trade is imperfect, when I look at the value to me does exist, and it's really good value. You know, I haven't worked out what the pip value is for the stop. It's around about 20. Sorry, stop to profit. It's around about 20. So if I take this up here, that leads us to about a 10 to 1. So if this was to not take me out here and end up at this area, then we're going to end up with a 10 to 1 trade, which is obviously, you know, extremely attractive potential price point. And if it collapses, to lose 20 is it's no big deal, right? It's not going to be that significant. But the other thing, we do need to look at the longer term timeframes as well when we're kind of looking at this, to establish if we are actually at a potential low. And when I look at the longer term timeframes, I'm looking at this weekly chart and starting to see that there is some potential support down here. This is what we currently have. And to look for the next potential point on the weekly chart would lead us somewhere in this area. It may even be a little bit higher, which we can see what the judgment call is. If we can start to kind of build up here, we can start to see what the judgment call is. But this does, a little bit more relaxed, in my opinion, if we can start to move forward here, because the potential for this to be a really good price, at or very near the low, just means that the trade can now go into longer term territory rather than worrying about some of these short term fluctuations. Because either way, if it starts to move forward, we should make something out of this. And the good thing about this now is that the 4-hour pattern is under stress. So this is our 4-hour pattern, and it's becoming increasingly under stress here. So it needs to get that close above there, which is just tipping its head above here now. So if the bulls can really start to pick up some pace here, then we should be fairly clear of this level then, which is, I would have thought, minimum going to make the trade free, which is what we want. So far, mate, the news that has come out of the States, we've had the first 5 minutes, and the first 5 minutes has been a really positive bullish bar. I would be anticipating a little bit of drawdown here. But if this doesn't draw down, that's obviously going to be a very bullish signal. It's the 15 that we're really concerned with. The first 5 minute bar isn't really that significant, but if we can get this 15-minute bar to close above these levels or very, very close to these levels, that's going to suggest a bullish morning, and that's what I want. I want the market to have really established that they're not too worried about the House of Representatives going to the Democrats, and it might be that we get the logjam. It might be that maybe even impeachment becomes more significant. But as I said yesterday, my judgment on it yesterday was the reason that the market was coming off. It may be different for the dollar, but the reason that the FTSE was coming off was not because who gets the House. I didn't think that would play that much significance. But my opinion was the reason that we were freezing where we were was due to the uncertainty of the fact that we had an election, and the market hates uncertainty. So when we get these uncertain times, it's much more likely to ease to the downside. Now that uncertainty is cleared up a little bit. Obviously, the result can play a fact and play a part. And if the result is negative, then obviously the market will continue to ease to the downside at very worst. At best, and maybe tank the downside at very worst. But the other thing that it can do is just kind of brush it aside and actually wait for some significant news to happen. Wait for that impeachment or wait for there to be a logjam before we start to see the market reaction, because we should have a few months of just things being a little less tense, just for a little while. But there's no doubt that looking at this currently, that the pound could well play a factor in the FTSE's move to the upside here. And where is the pound gone? Here it is here. And the way that the pound is reacting to the news, just as you said earlier on, most of the dollar-denominated currencies are actually moving to the upside, is not going to be as significant because it's more to do with the dollar than it is the pound, but it will have some significance. And when I just looked at this pound, then it's getting very, very close to this level. And I think there's a lot of people that are waiting to get on board with this. And as it gets close to this level, there's maybe a chance now that actually we start to see it before we start to ease into the downside, because this is incredibly bullish. And it's so rare. I mean, I know we've got extenuating circumstances, but for us to get a move so solidly to the upside, and I have to say, on very, very little information, we haven't really seen anything happen in the UK. There has not been a deal done. Theresa May is still yet to call the European summit. So there's a lot of aspects here which don't really suggest to me that that the pound is really based on pound's move to the upside is really based on too much when it comes down to the fundamentals. What I would really like to see with the pound, and this may well also help the FTSE, is I would like to see us create a pattern that looks something like this. Where are we at? There we go. I'd like to see a pattern that creates something like this. So I'd like to see the markets look at that as the potential left shoulder, that as the head, and then look to see if we can come down, you know, similarly with the right shoulder. So somewhere in this area, maybe just a little bit higher, it comes up, and then it starts to move back to the downside. But that's what I'd be looking at with the pound, and then I'd look to pick it up down here. You know, for me, in the way that the style that I'll be ensuing, I will not be looking to trade the pound into this area. I would just like to see if that could unfold and then come back down here. If this was to unfold, that should be bullish for the FTSE, and if it does manage to hold up here, that will potentially be negative for the FTSE. So, you know, we could well be looking at early next year. Actually, that's towards the end of November. So maybe towards the end of this month, if the pound can start to move to the downside. Difficult to know if or when it gets up to this level. So maybe it would be, you know, looking at December, maybe early December. I'll be looking for a trade to the upside with the pound, and that might be the time to start looking in the opposite direction with the FTSE. But so far, I will double check that once more. And just make sure that I've got it. Yeah, so far the FTSE is looking pretty bullish, mate, and is just hanging its head just above this line. It probably needs to break through this particular area as well to really have some genuine consideration here. So we've got around about 3 minutes to go before the 15-minute bar closes. As I say, if this 15-minute bar is bullish, then I've got every reason to hang on here and see if we can continue our climb higher. But I would suggest that we're already probably at 2%. So that, you know, the trade has already kind of like gone up 2%. But I'm really looking for a big number here. So not going to do anything. I'm just going to wait and see what happens here because of the greater picture and see how that unfolds.
Mate, that could be sensational trade. Well done for getting into it. Let's hope those bulls continue their little run. Well, it looks to be more than a little run at the moment. It looks to be gaining great momentum. And let's hope we can get you up there into the 10-to-1 atmosphere, which is pretty high. Awesome stuff. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the pound, as you were. And for me, I'm really looking at, with these dollar crosses, what would be the case if we didn't have a midterm election? That's kind of where I'm at the moment, because really everything's gone to plan. Well, when I say to plan, certainly not Donald Trump's plan, but certainly as was forecast, everything's gone as it was forecast to be. So I'm kind of thinking, well, what was the market doing before this happened? Before we actually went into, let's say, reversal mode on the dollar, which was, of course, strengthening and continuing to strengthen. And what I see is, I go back to last Thursday, and and we were talking about this in the show where I think it was actually on Wednesday, maybe I mentioned this, or maybe even Tuesday, I can't recall, where we were talking about the fact that there was reversal in the air. It kind of had that feel about it. And that came to pass, of course, on the Thursday. A little bit of that on Wednesday, but Thursday was the day, and everyone put the pedal to the metal, and up she went. I just don't know if that was part of this either. So it's not that easy to draw a line through it. But what I do see going into this election, or prior to going into these midterms, and you know, this is only last week we're talking about, not even a week ago where this happened. I'm still not sure it's sustainable, and in the overbought nature that I'm seeing now, okay, I can see resistance levels ahead, and they're probably where the turnaround will take place for mine, because I've got the top of a range sitting here. So I'd be looking at that area for a retracement, or if not a reversal. But the primary trend is pretty tough to call. You've probably got to stick with bears, I suppose, because we're underneath that support trend line. But we've been in consolidation, for nearly half the year now, and yeah, I just hesitate to call it trend. But if we are to return to a trend, that probably has to be it. And I know a lot will depend on Brexit, and probably everything will depend on Brexit, not just a lot, as to where this really is headed. But at the moment, I can't see it stopping until here. That's pound US dollar. Pound yen's a little bit different, but pound US dollar, because of what's going on at the moment and the election, I can't see this not hitting at least that white line, which is 132.46. If I were in this still, I'd be quite happy. Pound yen, on the other hand, is already at a resistance level. And going back to the uncertainty thing that I feel, which is probably going to, in my opinion only, strengthen the yen a little bit, I can actually see this coming off. And that's why I'm looking to trade it short. So I think we are at a resistance level. I'm coming back to the thought process of where would we be if this election thing wasn't happening. And I probably see this. I see this fall off. And I think this has got to do with the uncertainty in the US over the elections. Look, I could be 100% in the opposite direction here and wrong. And this is a bull move based on something else. But that's where I'm at. And I see this as a driver of things to come. And if Brexit was to unfold, then everything changes, of course. But I'm happy to take this down to this level at least, and maybe even look for the bottom, which is, of course, this level here. I'm talking probably, I don't know, 139.75, something like that. That's kind of the level that I see. And just like you were talking on the FTSE, if there is a nice little, I don't know, reversal bar here, or a lower high or something of that nature that gets me interested at this exact level, then there's a pretty good reward on offer to about 900 odd pips. Depends on the risk that you take here, of course, as to how much you can get out of that. But I think that's a good level, and may even go lower. So whilst I see the bullish side of this, I can absolutely see the downside of it as well. And I just on that side of the bears at the moment. We will see how that pans out, of course. I haven't really looked at anything else because it's the yen pairs that really have my attention at the moment. The euro normally does, but when I look at this chart, this is the 30-minute chart, I see it and I think, oh my goodness, how on earth can you trade that today? That's just a very tough intraday I'm talking about. Very, very tough assignment to be looking to trade that pair intraday today. So you'd be looking at the bigger time frames, in my humble opinion, if you were looking to trade the euro, and they're just too far gone for me to think about trading it long. So retracement big time required here. The result of the elections have something to do with this, of course, and I just find this just a tough assignment. I think I'll have to wait till probably even next week before I start to get any confidence in trying to even predict directions on the majors versus the US dollar, because don't forget, we've got this little number coming up, if I can actually find it. This little number coming up on Thursday evening UK time, that is, of course, the federal funds rate and the Fed statement. Tipped this time to be a non-rise, if you like. We're starting to get used to rises in the US interest rates, but this is tipped not to be that. And it'll be interesting to read this statement actually when they do come out. They're probably rewriting it at the moment, or adding a couple of things to it that would suggest that, uncertainty, and that's the word I think we need to be concentrating on at the moment. Uncertainty surrounding all things presidential will be a topic of conversation, I'm sure, at the Fed meeting tomorrow evening. So that leaves me in a state of I don't really want to touch the crosses against the dollar, except, and it's a big except, but it's one that I love to trade, so I will be looking at it. I don't want the euro to go too much higher, and the reason for that is I want it to stay tightly in a range here, and I'll be looking tomorrow at some stage at this range, and if it is still intact and under probably 100 pips, I will look to trade it. What I normally like to do is take Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday's price action and put a ring around it, do something like this. So this is today. If it weren't to go any higher, I would look to that area there as the range that I would like to see broken. And then what I would like to see is price hang around pretty much where today's daily pivot is. So if we come into tomorrow evening UK time and Friday morning my time, with price in this area and this range not having been broken, I think there's be an excellent trade here to take as both a long and a short, because I think the market is probably waiting for the Fed to say something on not just the current economic climate, but what the economic climate may look like with a potential impeached president, I suppose. And they'll have an opinion on that, I'm sure. So I think that could be a market mover. And if this range is intact, as I say, and it's currently what? Around about the 100 pip mark. I don't want to trade it outside of that, but if it is around about the 100 pip mark, I think it's worth a little bit of an OCO. One cancels the other, long and short. So with 8 minutes to go before candles change, I don't have anything to trade, but I do have a fair thought process going on, and there's that beautiful bar that I was looking for. I don't know that I wanted it in one bar, but it appears to be okay where it is. So potential right shoulder coming here. I'll be looking for a lower high. I need to see a very small bar here now, though, to get me interested. This one's way too big, and we'll see how that pans out. So that was the favorite. Euro yen's gone with it. Pound yen has also gone with it by the looks of things. Yep. So let's see if they can take out new highs. If they can, my thought process probably has to stay on hold. So Ash, how's your trade going, bud?
Yeah, trade's going great, mate. We're currently up around about 3 to 1 at this stage, and
Awesome.
I don't want to get too kind of carried away with it, you know, because the thing is, I do want some heady heights, and I hope I'm not kind of aiming myself too high, but I do want some heady heights here. So I am going to look for somewhere in this area, and I think minimum. I've got to look for this this particular upper line pattern, you know, because that's. Let me just do this. This would suggest to me that you know, we're going to get somewhere in this area. Now that would be That's going to be around about a 7-1 at that point, if we can get up there, and I may well take that. I mean, you know, and the thing is, this isn't about being greedy. This is just about trading the correct way, and oftentimes coming out the market and taking the money and then seeing it go that little bit further is the wrong thing to do, to come out if the analysis has kind of led to this particular point. And this is where I suspect we will see, and it's more to the point of whether when we come up, or if I should say, if we come up to this level here, it's more to the point that you know, if we come up to that area there, do I really want to stomach a dip before potentially having a go at this again? And my suspicion is no, and my technical analysis would lead me to say no as well, because if I was fortunate enough to get up here pretty fast, pretty quickly, then you know, really the most sensible thing to do, unless, you know, price action was so bullish that it looks like it's going to go through anyway, and at that point I would just keep those stops nice and tight. But if there was a bit of a pause here, then I probably would take the trade off, and then on the dip see if there was another opportunity to then go long, and probably at that point I'd probably just look a little bit higher, maybe somewhere around about there. So at 70.64, so if it, you know, which was really the area that I was looking to go long at yesterday, which turned out to be a great area to go short. So as this one you know, moves forward, if it comes back to here, or maybe even slightly higher, you know, maybe it ends up to be around about the 93 level. If it comes up and comes back down there, then I don't think there'd be anything wrong with taking the money off here. And I'm talking about closing the whole trade and not just taking a fraction off. I'm talking about taking the whole trade off here and then seeing if it will come back down here, give us another reversal pattern, and then go higher. Because the thing with this is that because the trend is to the downside, it's kind of not quite as likely to get to the points of resistance, you know, but oftentimes it can just drop that little bit short. So I don't want to overplay it. I want to make sure that I am being sensible, and make sure that I am going to take the highest amount of profit that I possibly can out of this market. And it's, you know, it's certainly not going to be here, even though it's in nice kind of percentage territory already. It's not going to be at this level, because, you know, this is what I'm aiming for, and I've got to aim for at least this level, or at least this level. And if it starts to come back down again, actually, you know, it won't be a massive issue. I'll just take the trade off, because I've got to look for these ones. You know, I've got to look for these trades. So if this one ends up coming all the way back down again, and meaning that I don't make the 3%, I've got to look for the next one to kind of make the 7 to 10%. You know, if it sets up like this one. And actually, that would only need to happen once out of 3 times, where it actually hits target, to kind of make the other ones worthwhile staying in. So far so good, mate. This is currently the look of the 15-minute chart, and if we just bring the trend line on here, that's where it's managed to get through. And that's where I'd be looking for this one to potentially hold. And if it doesn't hold, then we can use this lower level here to start moving stops into. Not too tight. I'm not going to move them right into the low there, but you know, if this does start to collapse down here, then I can just start to shift those stops up. So making it more like a 10 pip stop rather than a 20 pip stop. So far so good is the overall answer, mate. As we head into the first half an hour, which I suspect you're looking at new bars. Are you not at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, my first opportunity to trade the market today, in fact, because I don't like to trade the first candle London session. And reasons for that, pretty much history. I've had some very poor experiences with trading the first candle of London session. I actually used to trade a strategy that worked many years ago, called the London Open Trade, and it was based on trading reversal of the first 5 minutes, if I remember. Geez, a long time ago. I can't quite remember. And that was currency only, not trading the FTSE or anything like that. It was only the euro, I think, at the time, which makes sense because that's the currency that I trade. All right, so we're looking at not trading the the dollar pairs, but when I look at them, they're looking kind of interesting. And the reason I say that, I don't know where that's come from. Just let me check on that. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I put these rectangles on my chart to give me nice guides as to where a range may be forming. And I've got two equal lows here, this little low here and this little low here. And I've got two equal highs now, 3. So what I start to look for now, and this is by no stretch a range as yet, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the two highs and the two lows to start a range for me very, very early here into the range. So if I do find an entry here, and I really, it's against my bias to trade the dollar crosses at the moment. But if I were to find a lower high here, I'd find it very, very difficult not to trade this based on a technical setup. So as always, I want to trade technically. I don't want to trade fundamentally. And the fundamentals sometimes get in the way, if you like. But what I will do here, if it does set up, I'll just trade at a very low risk and see how we go. So I'm looking for this lower high. It's the same on every chart. I'm looking for a lower high. And this big candle on Aussie yen taken us straight up to a potential right shoulder. Looks a very upright shoulder, as does this one. I'd find this tough to trade, but I would trade it. Again, this lower high that I'm seeking, this would need to be reversal bar as well. But something of this size ain't gonna work for me. So I probably need to get this candle, I don't know, through some level here, maybe to here or thereabouts before I look to trade it. But it's a very, very dangerous trade to take. And the reason I say that is because the market hasn't had really time to build to this level. This is a reaction of some kind. And again, it is the first candle of London session. And I do like to have a thought process that says it ain't necessarily the way things are going to pan out later in the day. So yeah, I'm kind of okay with it. If it is a reversal bar and some size about it, but I don't like the bar that led into it. Euro yen is going to be exactly the same. I think I can get rid of this rectangle now. That's Gonski. Because we've had this massive bar as the first bar of London session. When I say massive, in terms of what's around it, it's absolutely giant. And my mouse just fell off my pad. At 40 odd pips, it's a decent size 30-minute candle. And I'm going to look at this in a bigger context. And the context is this one. And we mentioned this yesterday. The top of this range, I call an ascending anything a range if it's bouncing off the top and the bottom. And that's what this is doing. Not so much the bottom of late, but certainly bouncing off support. Daily pivot, daily pivot, daily pivot. And it's very difficult for me not to think that this is a level where I want to find this reversal. And by the look of this bar, that's exactly what I'm going to get. But stranger things have happened, of course, and I'll still be alert to what the market does produce. That's the 4-hour chart. And that really does look to me as though we're headed a little bit higher. So going back to what I said before, if this bar doesn't suit me, and it really have to suit me, I don't know that I'm that keen now because of this very, very decisive and bullish bar to get short anytime soon. I'd rather see it get to that resistance level where that confluence is. Yeah, look, pound, I don't know what's causing this yen sell-off. The yen has been very, very weak, and I suppose momentum has got a lot to do with that. The interesting part, I suppose, for me, is that we haven't taken out these highs yet, and that's something that I'll hang on to. The 4-hour chart, similar to Euro Yen and Aussie Yen, of course, has tried to reverse, and this bar now looks as though it's going to absolutely smash through that and maybe take new highs. So my analysis may not even come into play, because this may just shoot through, and I'm not even going to get an opportunity to trade that. That doesn't mean I'm giving up the game right now, because this bar can do anything. It's simply a bullish looking bar at the moment. It could be a massive bull bar based on what I'm seeing at the moment, but until that's actually the case, I don't have anything to concern me. I'm not seeing any trades, guys. Otherwise, I'd be absolutely telling you about them. But there's really nothing here for me to get excited about. Dollar yen, again, it's so tough to trade this on an intraday basis, given what's happened already today. And I know this is all about elections, and therefore you've probably got to go back and have a look what was happening before the elections.
I don't think that's a problem, mate. I mean, it's this is the market, isn't it?
Sorry, mate. What's not the problem?
And the thing is about it is that, as we were saying, not too long ago, you were doing your quote of the day, and if there's nothing out there to trade, there's nothing out there to trade. I think I was quite fortunate that I was able to get in front of the market yesterday, very, very late with the futures, and and I think because the futures market was giving me a pattern to trade, then I was able to get something in. But I think this morning I would have been maybe a little bit more questionable. Actually, this one's not a bad setup in itself. Actually, as this does create a higher high, but I don't know. I just think that if the market's not showing itself, it's not showing itself, and I think this whole midterm election thing has been kind of tricky anyway to trade around. But things will clear out, and I think it's one of those. And I think we look as long as we can, but if things don't shape up, then we do the same thing and be professional. We'll put our laptops down and come back and fight when we need to fight. But I certainly wouldn't be too concerned at this stage that there's nothing there. I think the point yesterday, I think, was really poignant. But the fact that we're going to make more money by doing nothing in some environments, I think, is great. And I think it's really it doesn't need to be drilled home to people, because I hope you guys that are listening understand that this is just the way that trading is. You're not going to be able to tune in every time and see us do something. Sometimes there's something going to be shaping up, and it's going to be the perfect setup, or there will be a setup and we'll be able to take it and it'll work out. Sometimes those trades will be there and they won't work out. But oftentimes there's going to be nothing to do, and the best thing to do at this stage is to either do some education or shut things down and go to the pub or go and play golf. So I think it's all fine, mate. And actually, the fact that there's nothing there is I think education in itself, isn't it? If we're sort of like saying that that we're not going to try and force our eyes into attempting to make money which is just not on the table, then I think that's something that everybody really needs to take on board.
Yeah, look, totally, mate. There's no argument from me. And again, we had this conversation yesterday and we finished up closing early. I've got no problem doing that again today, except that I do think there's opportunities coming. They're just not here yet. And that's a simple case. So I'm not saying that I'm not going to trade today. What I am saying is that I'm just not going to trade just yet. So that right shoulder that I was talking about, if this hangs around here for a bit, what I'd like to see then happen is not to take the first opportunity, but wait for a second one. So I'll be looking for a second lower high here now, rather than the first one that's actually, or potentially, going to occur at this level. And the reason is because of this big bull bar. It's off-putting, and I'd much prefer to see a nice gradual retracement like that, and then a reversal bar, rather than a massive bar, then a reversal bar. It's not anywhere near as enticing, nor is it anywhere near as reliable, in my humble opinion. So that's what I'll be looking for. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Exactly this here. If we see a big bull bar like that, and we get a reversal bar straight away, and you jump into the market, you may get a little bit out of it. But if you get a nice retracement back and then the lower high, that's where your money is, right here. And you can find, guess what? A support level down here as well. So beautiful exit point. When you're trading off here, it's high risk, number one. But number two, the general reaction is to a bar like that is not the equivalent of that bar most times before it will retrace, because there's a reason that happened. Most time, not all the time. You will get a train track reversal at times, but not on a bar that big that often. And if the market's doing that, gee, you've got a volatile market going on, that's for sure. So just as we've had here, I'll be looking for not this one to trade, but this one to trade. When we get that second lower high, that's the one I'll be looking to trade. So hopefully that will occur, and we'll get those opportunities on any one of these crosses, you know, Aussie yen, Euro yen, pound yen. Happy days. And even if we get these highs taken out, what I'll be looking for is any sign of reversal on the primary move being this one. Problem is I'm not seeing that at this moment. I'm not seeing a candle that's telling me this is about to reverse. That's a reversal bar, but to me it's not as clear as it would be if it were an engulfing bar, or indeed a genuine high test bar. This is neither of those for mine. Euro yen, same. I don't have it. I've got exactly the same bar. And Aussie yen, I look at the 4-hour time chart, I do have that. I've got the reversal bar that I'm looking for. It's not red, doesn't have to be, but it is a genuine high test bar at a resistance level. So this is why I'm keener on the Aussie yen than I am on anything. And this lower high that I seek is very, very important. If it comes off the back of, I don't know, what I like to see is price fall, then come back. I don't want to see it in one bar. I want to see price come down, hit some support, then roll over, then give me that lower high. So I'm talking about time. And if time permits and allows me that scenario, that's when I'll look to trade it. But at this point in time, it's not there. So it's exactly the same on just about every cross that I'm looking at. I'm really still convinced that I need to stay away from these dollar crosses at the moment until the market decides exactly how it's going to deal with the scenario and the elections. But this Aussie's looking interesting as well. That's exactly what I was talking about. Reversal bar here. Nice, gentle decline. Then this is a bit bullish. See, it's still a bit quick for me, but it is getting there. That's the kind of price action I'm looking for. Again, don't trade this bar. Wait for something better. Don't know that was better, but it's certainly a signal. And as I say, if these highs are taken out, it's not the end of the story, because a reversal bar after these highs are taken out is still very interesting, and I'll be looking for that. But I am talking time. I'm not talking the next 5 or 10 minutes. I'm talking probably later in the day, if not tomorrow. So it's probably that's where I'm sitting, mate, and I don't have too much more to add. If you've got a little bit more, if you want to manage that trade, happy days. Otherwise, I'm good to go.
Perfect, mate. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. That's good for me. I haven't got really anything that I can do with this. Well, I can, you know, I could close the whole thing, but just the way it is right now, there's not really any point. I think for me, I'm in the trade. It's going in the right direction. I'm going to leave things where they are. Let's just well, the first hour hasn't really, you know, I suppose I could move my stop to break even now, but it's pretty close as it is. And to be honest, I will do that if price, you know, significantly dips here and it looks like it's going to be weakening. I will move those stops to break even. But at this stage, you know, I think under these lows is absolutely fine. That gives me a little bit of mitigation. I think I'd much prefer to see this thing unfold and then move stops rather than moving too early. I think I need to give it that room. I until I see these highs up here, you know, we're still another 60 odd pips away from these highs. Until I see these highs here, I don't really want to do too much. If we come through here, then you know, and then start to weaken, then maybe stops can be moved under this particular level. But and I suspect we probably will see some weakness fairly soon, because you know this is another point of resistance here. But what I'm quite enjoying about this so far is that the head and shoulders pattern on the 4-hour chart is being swept aside, and that was always going to be the danger for me. If the head and shoulders was to play out, the measured move of this head and shoulders pattern is somewhere, not accurately necessarily, but it's going to be somewhere, I'd say, it's the top line, somewhere down here. Sorry, that was a breakout there. Somewhere down there. So so that was always going to be was going to be the issue for me, that we could actually take a much more significant dip. But as I say, right now with the pattern starting to move to the upside, as long as it closes within this, then the head and shoulders is getting negated, and that was quite important, I think, for this this trade to have the potential to work out. But not a whole bunch to do right now. I'm looking for, as I say, at least another 60 pips. But you know, the actual top price here is actually more like 70 pips, 70, 75 pips. But the top price is really more like another 130. You know, so there's you know, maybe 60 pips that I'm quite happy to lose. If it does touch that area, I'm quite happy to bin that, just for the fact that the first point would have made a sizable amount, looking like you know, potentially 140 pips there. So you know, nothing to do really for me, mate. I don't really want to meddle with it too much, because it'd be very easy for me to meddle with this, just the way it's going. I could quite easily come out here, but I'd just like to see this establish and actually look at this long-term pattern. Look at this left shoulder, look at this right shoulder, look to see that I've got the bottom end of the right shoulder, and then just see it ease up. So I'm fine to close it early for the day, mate, and then we'll live another day tomorrow. I think I'm flying tomorrow. In fact, I am flying tomorrow. So I don't think I'll get to Bali in time for the show, but if I do, I will see you. If not, I will see you in Bali on the Friday, I think it is. You arrive, don't you? I'll see you for then, mate. If I don't manage to speak to you tomorrow.
Yeah, mate. Friday night we're there around about 9:30. I think we land local time, which means there'll be cold beers flowing. I don't know, about 10:30 or something like that. I think the boss has already lined that up, and no doubt we'll catch you there. Looking forward to that very much. Guys listening on the stream, thanks for your company. Ash going great guns with that trade. Looks like a fantastic trade, and hopefully that goes to where he wants it to go, and that is a very nice target. Okay, I'm still looking at these potential reversals on Aussie yen, Euro yen, pound yen, looking for those lower highs or reversal bars after the highs are taken out, and then lower highs. Have a great rest of Hump Day Wednesday, and I hope the trades are going your way. Have a good one. Bye-bye for now.